What if the breakfast foods most people reach for every morning are actually making blood sugar control harder, while some of the oldest foods in human history quietly do the opposite? For decades, we've been told that all grains are basically the same, but that's not what history shows. Ancient civilizations carefully selected certain grains that kept workers strong through long harvests, sustained travelers across deserts, and nourished entire populations long before blood sugar meters ever existed. Today, modern science is uncovering why some of these ancient grains affect the body very differently than highly processed modern breakfast foods. Stick around, because number 4 on this list contains unique beta-glucans that researchers have linked to significantly improved glucose control. And number 1 may be the most overlooked blood sugar-supporting grain in the modern grocery store, despite being cultivated for thousands of years. Hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we connect cutting-edge nutrition science with the foods your body was designed to thrive on. Let's get into it. Here are 15 ancient grains that can influence your blood sugar when eaten every morning, ranked from remarkable to absolutely extraordinary. Thousands of years ago, farmers across the Fertile Crescent cultivated einkorn, one of the earliest domesticated grains known to humanity. Archaeological evidence places its cultivation in regions of modern-day Turkey and surrounding lands more than 10,000 years ago. Communities depended on it long before modern agriculture transformed wheat into something very different. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Einkorn contains a distinct protein structure and higher concentrations of antioxidants such as lutein and carotenoids compared with many modern wheat varieties. Research published in the European Journal of Nutrition has shown that ancient wheat varieties can produce more favorable metabolic responses than highly refined grain products. Its naturally dense nutrient profile may also help support steadier glucose handling when consumed as a minimally processed whole grain. Here's the traditional use. Prepare einkorn as a warm porridge using whole cracked kernels. Soak overnight before cooking. Choose whole einkorn berries or stone-ground products and avoid highly refined versions that remove fiber-rich portions of the grain. Got forgotten. Industrial agriculture favored higher-yield wheat varieties that were easier to mass-produce. Natural foods cannot be patented, making them less attractive than processed alternatives. Einkorn still offers what it offered for more than 10,000 years. Ancient Egyptians relied heavily on emmer wheat along the Nile River. Tomb paintings and preserved grain stores reveal how central this grain was to daily life, feeding workers, farmers, and entire communities for centuries. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Emmer provides substantial dietary fiber, resistant starch, and important minerals including magnesium. Magnesium plays a key role in insulin signaling pathways. Studies in nutrients have linked higher whole grain intake with improved blood sugar regulation and reduced risk of metabolic disorders over time. Here's the traditional use. Cook whole emmer berries until tender and use them as a breakfast cereal. Look for intact grains rather than instant products. Slow cooking preserves the traditional structure that contributes to gradual digestion. Got forgotten. Refined grain manufacturing rewards speed, shelf stability, and uniformity. Ancient grains simply do not fit that industrial model. Emmer still offers what it offered since the age of the pharaohs. For thousands of years, farmers in the Ethiopian highlands cultivated teff on terraced fields. Despite its tiny size, it became one of the most important grains in East Africa and remains a cornerstone of traditional diets today. Here's what they understood, through generations of observation, that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Teff contains fiber, iron, resistant starch, and polyphenols that influence glucose metabolism. Research in food chemistry has highlighted teff's rich antioxidant profile and its potential contribution to healthier glycemic responses. Its compact nutrient density makes it unusually impressive among grains. Here's the traditional use. Traditional teff porridge remains one of the best ways to enjoy it. Choose whole grain teff flour or intact seeds. Avoid sweetened commercial breakfast mixes that dilute its nutritional advantages. Got forgotten. Large-scale food systems favored globally standardized crops. Smaller regional grains received far less commercial attention. Teff still offers what it offered for thousands of years in the Ethiopian highlands. Ancient Mesopotamian civilizations cultivated barley extensively across fertile river valleys. It fed laborers, soldiers, and farming communities long before modern nutrition science existed. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Barley contains beta-glucans, soluble fibers that form a gel-like structure during digestion. Research published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition has shown that barley beta-glucans can improve post-meal blood sugar responses and enhance insulin sensitivity. These fibers slow carbohydrate absorption and support beneficial gut microbes. Here's the traditional use. Use hulled barley rather than pearl barley whenever possible. Cook it into a hearty breakfast porridge and pair it with cinnamon and nuts instead of sugar. Got forgotten. Highly processed breakfast cereals became easier to market than slow-cooked whole grains with little patent potential. Barley still offers what it offered for more than 5,000 years. Across ancient regions of Africa, sorghum sustained communities through difficult growing conditions. Its remarkable resilience made it one of humanity's most dependable cereal crops. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Sorghum contains unique polyphenols, tannins, and antioxidant compounds that may slow starch digestion. Studies in the Journal of Medicinal Food have suggested sorghum's bioactive compounds may contribute to healthier glucose responses compared with refined grain alternatives. Here's the traditional use. Cook whole sorghum grains overnight or grind them into traditional porridge. Seek non-GMO whole grain products and avoid heavily sweetened commercial cereals. Got forgotten. Industrial food favored crops optimized for processing rather than nutritional complexity. Sorghum still offers what it offered for generations across Africa. Ancient communities throughout China and northern India cultivated millet long before rice became dominant. Historical records show it was valued for reliability and nourishment. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Millet provides magnesium, fiber, and plant compounds associated with metabolic health. Research appearing in Frontiers in Nutrition has linked millet consumption with improved glycemic control and healthier fasting blood sugar measurements in several populations. Here's the traditional use. Prepare millet as a warm breakfast porridge. Toast lightly before cooking to enhance flavor. Choose whole millet and avoid refined flour products whenever possible. Got forgotten. Global commodity agriculture focused attention on a small handful of grains, leaving traditional crops behind. Millet still offers what it offered for thousands of years. Ancient Roman soldiers consumed forms of farro before long marches and military campaigns. It was considered a practical staple that provided sustained energy throughout demanding days. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Farro contains fiber, protein, magnesium, and complex carbohydrates that digest more slowly than refined grain products. Studies examining whole grain diets consistently show improvements in markers associated with glucose control and metabolic health. Here's the traditional use. Cook whole farro kernels until tender and enjoy them as a breakfast bowl. Avoid instant versions that sacrifice texture and digestion-slowing structure. Got forgotten. Refined products offered longer shelf life and greater profit margins than traditional whole grains. Farro still offers what it offered since the Roman era. Freekeh originated in the eastern Mediterranean, where young green wheat was harvested and roasted. Historical accounts trace its use back centuries across the Levant. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Freekeh contains substantial fiber and resistant starch because it is harvested while still immature. Research has associated resistant starch with improved insulin sensitivity and reduced post-meal glucose spikes. Here's the traditional use. Cook freekeh slowly until chewy and tender. Source authentic roasted green wheat products and avoid heavily flavored commercial blends. Got forgotten. Traditional preparation methods require time and skill, making them less attractive to industrial food systems. Freekeh still offers what it offered for generations across the Mediterranean. For centuries, communities in Asia and Eastern Europe relied on buckwheat as a hardy staple crop. Despite its name, it is actually a seed rather than true wheat. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Buckwheat contains rutin, quercetin, and a compound called D-chiroinositol, which has been studied for its relationship to insulin signaling. Research in nutrients has explored its potential benefits for metabolic health and glucose regulation. Here's the traditional use. Use whole groats to prepare a breakfast porridge. Choose plain buckwheat rather than sugar-loaded pancake mixes and flavored cereals. Got forgotten. Food manufacturers often favor ingredients that fit existing processing systems and mass-market expectations. Buckwheat still offers what it offered for centuries across Eurasia. Across Northern Europe, rye became a dietary foundation because it thrived where other grains struggled. Farming communities depended on it throughout long winters. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Rye contains arabinoxylans and other fibers associated with prolonged fullness and slower glucose release. Research published in Nutrition Journal has shown rye-based breakfasts can improve satiety and reduce later blood sugar fluctuations. Here's the traditional use. Prepare whole rye berries as hot cereal. Avoid refined rye products containing added sugars and highly processed flours. Got forgotten. Modern diets shifted toward highly refined grains that digest rapidly and generate repeat consumption.
Rye still offers what it offered for centuries in Northern Europe.
If the pattern is becoming clear, that real food grown in real soil does what expensive medications promise, then do me a favor and hit the like button right now. It helps this channel reach people who are searching for answers that actually work. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe and ring the bell. We cover ancestral nutrition, homestead health, and evidence-based natural healing every single week. Now let's finish the list with the most powerful ones. Ancient civilizations throughout Central America cultivated amaranth long before European contact. It was prized for nourishment, resilience, and ceremonial importance. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Amaranth supplies protein, fiber, magnesium, and antioxidant compounds. Research has associated its nutrient profile with support for healthy glucose metabolism and cardiovascular health. Here's the traditional use.
Cook whole amaranth into a thick porridge.
Select minimally processed forms and avoid sweetened packaged versions.
Got forgotten. Traditional crops often lost visibility when industrial agriculture narrowed its focus. Amaranth still offers what it offered since the Aztec era. High in the Andes Mountains, indigenous communities cultivated quinoa for thousands of years under challenging conditions. It became a vital food because of its exceptional nutritional value. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Quinoa contains fiber, complete protein, magnesium, and beneficial plant compounds. Research in nutrients has highlighted its favorable effects on metabolic markers compared with refined carbohydrate foods. Here's the traditional use. Rinse quinoa thoroughly before cooking to remove bitter saponins. Prepare it as a breakfast bowl with nuts and seeds rather than sweet syrups. Got forgotten.
Natural foods cannot generate the same profits as proprietary processed products. Quinoa still offers what it offered for thousands of years in the Andes. Kamut, often associated with ancient Egyptian grain traditions, is a large heirloom wheat valued for its rich flavor and nutrient density. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Studies in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition have reported favorable effects of ancient wheat consumption on metabolic and inflammatory markers. Kamut provides minerals, antioxidants, and fiber that support healthier carbohydrate metabolism. Here's the traditional use. Cook whole kernels overnight for a hearty breakfast cereal. Avoid highly refined products that remove valuable components. Modern farming emphasized maximum yield over nutritional diversity. Kamut still offers what it offered for centuries. Fonio has been cultivated in West Africa for thousands of years. Communities valued it for its ability to thrive in difficult environments while providing dependable nourishment. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Fonio supplies minerals, amino acids, and slowly digested carbohydrates. Emerging nutritional research suggests it may support steadier blood sugar responses compared with heavily refined grains. Here's the traditional use. Cook fonio quickly as a breakfast porridge. Choose traditional whole grain preparations and avoid heavily processed convenience products. Small regional crops often receive little attention from large food corporations. Fonio still offers what it offered for thousands of years.
While oats have ancient roots across Europe and parts of Asia, whole oat groats remain surprisingly uncommon in modern diets. Most people consume heavily processed oat products instead. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Oat groats contain beta-glucans that have been extensively studied for blood sugar control. Research in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition has shown meaningful improvements in post-meal glucose handling and cholesterol markers when beta-glucan-rich oats are consumed regularly. Here's the traditional use. Use intact oat groats, soaked overnight and cooked slowly. Avoid instant-flavored packets loaded with sugars and artificial ingredients. The food industry discovered that convenience products sell better than traditional whole foods. Oat groats still offer what they offered for centuries. If you made it all the way through, here is your complete framework. For slowing carbohydrate absorption, focus on barley, oat groats, rye, and freekeh. Their unique fibers help moderate how quickly glucose enters the bloodstream. For improving nutrient density while supporting metabolic health, look at teff, quinoa, amaranth, and fonio. These grains deliver minerals and plant compounds that modern diets often lack. For traditional whole grain energy with a deep ancestral legacy, einkorn, emmer, farro, and kamut deserve serious attention. They connect us directly to some of the earliest agricultural societies on Earth. For unique bioactive compounds, buckwheat, sorghum, and millet stand apart. Their specialized plant chemicals provide benefits that extend beyond simple nutrition. The pattern running through this entire list is remarkably consistent. The farther a grain remains from industrial processing, the more likely it is to retain the fiber, minerals, antioxidants, and complex structures that support healthy blood sugar regulation. Ancient farmers did not understand insulin receptors, gut microbiomes, resistant starches, or beta-glucans, but they understood outcomes. They observed which foods sustained energy, reduced hunger, and supported long-term health. Modern science has spent decades uncovering the mechanisms behind those observations. Smash that like button if this changed the way you look at ancient grains. Drop a comment below and tell me which grain surprised you most. Are you Team Barley, Team Teff, or Team Einkorn? I read every single comment. And if you haven't subscribed to Homestead Roots yet, click that button now and ring the bell. We post every week and we are just getting started. Because the most powerful nutrition doesn't come in a prescription. It was eaten by the healthiest people who ever lived. And now you know exactly which ancient grains to prepare.